So really, man, I was raised Catholic. So as a young boy, I remember going to church, and it was like an obligation to me. You know, like I was like, I have to be there, and it was just like my mom would get mad if I didn't show up, and there would be times that I would my mom would say, "Hey, if you don't go to church today, you're not going out to play," and I'm like, well, of course I'm going to go to church. I want to go play later, you know, because that was like a normal thing. And it was just a really like, you know, like Sunday, Wednesday thing. You know, I went to catechism because it was something that like all my friends were doing as well, and something that like my mom wanted me to do, you know, and it just kept going and going, and I was just like, felt so obligated to be there, and I never learned anything. I really don't even remember hearing about God. I don't remember hearing about Jesus. I don't remember hearing about like anything like even the Holy Spirit, you know. All I remember is how to say the Our Father in Spanish, like that's all, you know. And with it being in Spanish, I'm fluent in Spanish, but I still didn't understand like what's going on. Like I was like 10 years old trying to understand like Bible terms in Spanish whenever I like barely knew any English, barely knew any Spanish, you know, so it was just hard. So my life was just going on like that, just going to church Sunday, Wednesday, you know. I did the in the Catholic culture or the Catholic religion, you do First Communion, you do confirmation, all that stuff, you know, and I went through all those things because that was like an accomplishment then, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was good. It wasn't like I enjoyed it just because I can make fun out of a lot of things, you know. And so going on with my life, just that kept going, and my life gave a little bit of a lot of a turn. My freshman year in high school, my dad actually got arrested, and he went to prison. And it was 2 weeks into my freshman year of high school, and whenever he got arrested, it was like out of the blue. Like I was just like, what's going on? Like I had no clue what was going on, you know. And it was just tough. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, like what are we supposed to do? And they gave him 5 years, you know. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is gonna be rough. Like my dad has always been my rock. He's still my rock, you know. Every single time like I need something, I can go straight to him. Even if I don't need something, if I just want something, I can still go to him, you know. And it was just hard, you know. So my dad went to prison, and it was left with it being so my family, it's my mom, my dad, and I have 3 older brothers. And my two oldest brothers were already living out of the house. They were living on their own, living their own life, you know. And my brother right next to me, he was the one that's like was with me through everything that I've like been through. So really, so whenever my dad went to prison, my mom was just having a really hard time, like harder time than I could imagine, you know. It was just really tough time. I don't understand like how it happened or what like her mindset was, but she moved away, and she moved to Oklahoma City, and it was just me and my brother then, like just a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old. My mom just left, and I was confused. I just remember like being like, what's going on? Like, what am I supposed to do? You know? And I didn't know where to go. You know? Like I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know it's like my sophomore year in high school. I'm only 14, going on to 15. You know? Like what am I supposed to do? So then is when reality really hits. Like, okay, I have to learn how to like cook on my own, live on my own. Like all this stuff, you know. And I had my older brother with me, and he was really smart. He is still really smart, and paying bills, everything like that was like, hey, like you have to learn how to do this now. And there was times when like we would forget that the light bill was due, you know, and our lights would go off, and we're just like, Did you pay the light bill? No, I didn't pay the light bill. You know, I forgot. Like that's something on my, that's not something on mine. I barely remembered my math homework. You know, I had geometry due today, and so it was just tough. Like my mom being gone, then my dad being gone. You know, it was just like kind of a slap of reality right away that said, you're gonna like live this way. You know, and a 14-year-old needs his parents. I don't care what any independent 14-year-old could say right now. A 14-year-old needs their parents. I had this like hunger, like this very, very, very strong hunger of, I need somebody who's gonna love me. I need somebody that's gonna make me feel like wanted and heard and all this, you know. So I mean, I looked for that in like parties, drugs, alcohol, whatever, because I was like, these people come to my house and I mean, nobody's gonna stop me to have a party, you know, so I might as well have all the parties. So I had a party every single weekend, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes on a Tuesday, you know, because it was like, oh yeah, like we can go to Cheese's house because like he doesn't have parents, you know, his parents aren't there. And nobody knew what was going on, you know, because nobody knew why my mom was gone, nobody knew why my dad was gone. Everybody just knew that like, hey, we can go to his house and have parties. And my thought was like, these people are coming here because they love me, they love the things, you know. And going on with that, I just really, really kept like going on, like feeling that, looking for something to fill that void of my mom being gone, of my dad being gone. And that void was so deep that like that hunger for wanting to feel loved was just so strong that like those things eventually weren't cutting it, you know. So I looked for it in a girl. Like there was like girls that I was like, okay, maybe I can go to this girl and this girl will show me the love and show me the like support that I need, you know. And I went on with that. I went on with that girl, and I like just really strung that relationship out, and it ended up being a really abusive relationship. Like she was like physically abusive, emotionally, mentally abusive, like all those things, you know. And I held on to it so much, and this is actually something that I kind of revealed pretty recently, that I didn't know why I held on to the relationship so much, but I held on to the relationship so much because if I left her, I didn't want her to feel the hurt that I felt when my mom left. Uh-huh. So I kept that relationship going because I was like, I don't want to hurt her the way my mom did, because it did hurt, you know, like it was trouble, like it was hard, you know. And I like, but really thinking like that hurt wasn't something that like anybody can feel unless their parents are gone, you know. And really going on forward like more in my life, so I was kind of, I would go to kids camp. Kids camp is kind of like what really sparked up my like my belief in Jesus, you know. And I was doing kids camp like before I was even saved. I've never actually said this like on camera or even like to much people, but I used to like my praying to kids, because they'd be like, okay guys, let's have a prayer time. My praying to kids was literally singing song lyrics from K-Love, because I was like, this is the only thing that I know. I don't know what to do. So I would sing song lyrics. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna sing like and, you know, I wouldn't sing them. I would just like say them, like just like random song lyrics, because I was like, these kids don't know, like they don't know what praying is, you know, like that was my thought then, because I wasn't saved. I had no clue, no relationship with Jesus, no like no knowledge of the Bible, no like anything, you know. I didn't have like, I wasn't Holy Spirit led, nothing like that, you know. But I still had that hunger of, these kids need to feel loved, these kids need to feel supported, and this is what I want to do for them, you know. And as I was just like doing that, it was just that was my thing. Like I was like, this is how I can do it, you know. And so kids kept going. I even won like Team Leader Hall of Fame, like, which is like a little award you get, and you get money at the end of the week, you know. And it's like something everybody votes on it and says like, he's the one that's done the best all week. He's really reflected Jesus. He's really done all this. And I'm just like, I don't even know who Jesus is, but I'm just here, you know? Like, I'm just showing up because this is fun and this is the thing, you know?
Yeah.
And really realizing all these things coming together was Jesus doing works inside of me from, like, the very beginning of, like, my life. And I didn't realize this until I did get saved, but I use this a lot is I try to use temporary pleasures to fulfill my void. And that was with all the things that I did. And to find out, like, that those temporary pleasures are temporary and Jesus isn't temporary. You know, knowing that now is greater, the greatest thing I ever realized, because I thought that all the fun, all the games, all those, like, things, all those friends and everything like that weren't going to come to an end because, like, it was fun. Why would somebody want that to end, you know? But it was only fun for a temporary amount of time. And really realizing and really finding out that Jesus isn't temporary was the start of my journey, you know? And the way it started was, and it's super crazy the way it started. I came to camp here in Kearney, and this was the first time I ever came to Kearney, and like, seeing the people here, seeing how much every single person here reflects Jesus, you know, like, it's like a walking image. I had so many, like, people come up to me and not even know me, but they were so kind, you know, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why are you being nice to me? Like, you know, like, I don't understand, you know, but everybody's so extremely nice here, and they still are. Everybody's always extremely nice. And so for that kids camp, we always do, like, little activities outside of, like, camp and everything like that. And we went to this forest. It's called Halsey. I think it's Halsey Forest or something. And we were riding four-wheelers there, and it was a disaster. It was awful. And everybody was, like, flipping four-wheelers. Like, there was even a kid that went to the ER. Like, one of the guys went to the ER because he flipped over his four-wheeler or something, and he ended up in the ER, you know? And it was just, it was a disaster. Like, maybe four four-wheelers broke. I don't remember. Like, it was pretty bad, you know? And I didn't flip a four-wheeler or anything like that, gladly, you know, thank God. And but I do. So I went a little bit ahead of the group, because I was like, I'm ready to get back. Like, everybody's having like, you know, we just got to go back. And I was following Pastor Tracy, and he's been there plenty of times, so he was taking the turns quick, you know. And eventually he kept going, and I lost him. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep going. And I just kept going and going, and I took a turn, and that turn, I started going, and I started seeing, like, a pond and ducks, and there was like cows, and I don't remember if there was cows, but there was like random things that were like, I was like, okay, I definitely would have remembered this if I would have came this way, you know. So I turned around, and when I turned around, I came back, and I was still lost. I was like, I don't know where to go. So then I was like, I'm gonna go this way and see if I can figure it out. So I keep going, and I get to this highway, and I'm like, this definitely isn't the way. We didn't pass a highway on the way over here, you know. And I'm there, and I get off my four-wheeler, and I'm like, oh my gosh, where am I supposed to go? And I was freaking out a little bit, but, like, it hadn't been, like, that bad. But I knew the enemy was trying to, like, kind of get into my head, and was like, you're lost. You're gonna be here forever. You're gonna be eaten by wolves. I don't know what's gonna happen. You know, everything that I can think of, it was there. You know, like, nobody's gonna find you. Nobody's gonna look for you. All the bad things that the enemy can attack me with, it was that, you know. And on that, so whenever I was, like, kind of freaking out, I was just standing there on my four-wheeler, and I was like, I'm just gonna wait for somebody to pass by. And as soon as somebody passes by, I'll ask them, like, how do I get back? So I sat on my four-wheeler for a second. I was like, okay, just wait for somebody to pass by. Nobody passed by on the street. Nobody. I was like, what's going on? Like, there was literally, like, 5 or 6 cars that passed by whenever I drove up here. Why is there no cars passing by now? And a little bit over to the left, I've never been, see, again, I've never been to this forest. A little bit to the left, there was a map. And the map told you, like okay, here's where you are, here's where this campsite's at, this campsite, this campsite, this campsite. And I was like, I don't even know what campsite we're at. You know, like, so looking at the map, it seemed like everything was in a different language. Like, it was just like, all the words were like fumbling, you know, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know where I'm at. And so I was like, okay, I'm on a mission trip. I'm just going to pray. And I was like, Jesus, what do I do? Where do I go? And this was my very, very first encounter with Jesus, because it was a moment to where I didn't know what to do but pray. That was the only thing that I had. And I felt like I was like lost and had no clue what to do. And as I remember really like being like, Jesus, what do I do? Jesus, where do I go? And Jesus just came down. He said, came down and told me, like, hey, I want you to just go left. And there was a road, and we just kept going. He was like, go right, go left, you know. And I was like, okay, cool, all right, Jesus, now where? And I kept going and going, and I was like, where do I go? Like, I don't know where to go. And there was at one point to where I got to this stop sign, and I was like, okay, Jesus, now what? And he wasn't saying anything. And I was like, Jesus, now what? And he didn't say anything. So I was like, well, what's going on now? You know, like, what am I supposed to do? And I look over to the left, and there's like the trailer where we drove in on. And I look at it, and Pastor Mitch is there, and he's talking on the phone. He's over there, like, and I knew that I was back. And I was like, how did this happen? Like, that's crazy, you know. And so I got there. Like, I drove up, and I was like, where's everybody else? And Pastor Mitch was like, nobody's here yet. Like, you got here before everyone else. But the reason I got there before everyone else is because everyone else was flipping their four-wheelers, and four-wheelers were breaking down and all of that stuff, you know, and it just was a disaster. Like, it wasn't good. Like, it wasn't good for hardly anyone that went, you know. Nobody really enjoyed it, anything like that, because it was just, like, there was so much that happened. Like, it was just bad. But, so having that encounter made me realize that the hunger that I had from being a kid to now was the hunger of Jesus, the hunger of feeling loved, but only love that Jesus can provide, only like support that Jesus can provide, only like knowing that the only person that I can lean on is Jesus. And that was when I found out temporary pleasures come to an end. Jesus doesn't come to an end ever. And if I want to feel loved by anyone, that Jesus is going to be the one that's going to love me.
Amazing.
And yeah, so really feeling like all of that love made me want to show other people, like, this is the love that I feel. I want you to feel the same love through me. And it's, the Bible talks about we are made in the image of God. God created humans like him. You know, and that's, even that in itself is phenomenal, because like God, the God said, I'm going to make you like me, you know, and then he sends his son and he gives his life for us. All of that stuff is just like bizarre to me. For me not to share that is just really like selfish, because I want everybody to know. I want everybody to feel what I feel. I want everybody to know like where my joy comes from. And I'm not always happy, obviously, you know, like I'm human still, you know, but a lot of my happiness comes from Jesus, because that's what I want. That's what I have that hunger. I'm going to continue to have that hunger. You know, I'm 24. I can't imagine what it's like when I'm 54. You know, that hunger for Jesus, that love, that like forever hope, that faithfulness that I can just stand on, all those things. I want those things to continue to grow. So that looking at living like Jesus, being the reflection of Jesus, and continuing to want that hunger and just have that hunger, and it's just good. I enjoy it. I enjoy where I'm at in my life. If it wasn't for that moment in that forest, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, and even everybody here, Pastor Mitch, Pastor Andy, Pastor Chris, Pastor Tracy, Pastor John, he's a really, really good friend of mine. Everybody in this church has really been that reflection of Jesus to where I'm like, I want to be like you. But it's not being like them, it's being like Jesus, because they're doing everything they can to be like Jesus, So it just makes it more of a, in the end it's still Jesus. In the end it's still love. In the end it's still the way that Jesus has been for me. So it's just been good. That's where my hunger comes for kids camp. My hunger comes for ministry in general, is because if I can be a reflection of Jesus and tell people, all you have to do is be a reflection of Jesus, and you have to live this life. It's not about religion. It's not about all of that. It's all about Jesus. It's all about Jesus. It's all about Jesus. This is all it is. That's where all of it comes together for me. It's just Jesus is the one. Jesus is the answer, and it's just good. I enjoy being able to be like Jesus. That's really all. That's where my life has really pretty much from beginning to now to present. That's how my life has been, is because Jesus had led me to this point. It's a different kind of feeling when you feel God. And God shows up. God is there. And sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but us as humans, we've set this expectation of, God, well, I thought you were going to show up the way that I wanted you to show up. But God doesn't show up all the time the way that we want to. He shows up the way that He knows that we need. He doesn't give us our wants always, but He shows us our needs. And God may be showing up in your life, but you're setting your expectation to your own expectation, but God works on His own measures. God works on His own things, God, the way that He wants to show up, He's going to show up in His way. His will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Not the other way around, not His will, His will's going to show up on His terms. And it's really hard sometimes. I understand that, because I've even, after being saved, I've had those situations come up to where I'm like, God, are you even here? God, are you listening? Because it's tough. We're human. We're living in this broken world to where we've fallen so far off track that people who don't believe in Jesus have became big influence in this world. And us as believers, we should be able to steer that and be able to change that culture of, yes, God is real, God is there, God is here, but God isn't here on just your terms. God is here on His terms. His will be done. His will be done. That's what we should look for. We shouldn't look for God, I really want this, or only asking for hey, I know I haven't talked to you in a bit, but I need you in this moment. I think moving here to Nebraska, so, and this is recent, moving here this year, because I wasn't sure if I was supposed to move here because it was like what am I supposed to do there? What am like? How am I supposed to like leave my like everything back home, you know, and just come here again? I already did it for a year, you know, and coming here was probably the best thing I've ever done, really, because it was being able to like trust him in like where am I gonna live, what am I gonna do, where am I gonna work. All of this stuff like was just like on my mind, like how is this supposed to work if I don't know how it's going to work. And I kept praying and praying about it because it was hard. Like I was like, this is something that I'm fumbling with and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And really I was praying about it, and I remember being in Belize for a missions trip over there. And I was sitting in a golf cart, because in Belize you travel with golf carts. It's a little island. There's no cars. You just travel on golf carts, you know. And we were at a church service, and that church service is underneath a tent. It's so awesome. It's really so humbling when you go there, because we have these stages and we have everything like that, and we're praising God, but they do it under a tent the exact same way. The exact same God, you know. So it's cool. It's really humbling to be able to be there, because we're surrounded by dirt and we're surrounded by like just chairs underneath the tent, you know. So it's really
awesome.
really humbling. And I was sitting in the golf cart and I was just praying, and I was just, you know, I was just like Jesus, where am I supposed to be, you know? And at this time, I really had a thought of going to Kentucky as well, because we do kids camps over there as well, and there was a kind of not a job opportunity open, but there was like a ministry like position available. Like I could have gone over there and ministered at some point, you know. And I just said like, Jesus, where am I supposed to be in this moment? What am I supposed to do? And he showed me this very, very awesome image that like it's just really, really like so descriptive. So to me it was like, wow, like how am I supposed to not do this, you know? And he showed me two giant nets, and one was labeled Nebraska and one was labeled Kentucky, right on it, you know, like it was just right on it. And on the nets it was like there was things falling down like onto the nets, and the one on the Kentucky side, it started bouncing off and just bouncing off. And I was like, what does that mean? And right after that, everything started falling down on the Nebraska one. And the net kept closing in, getting bigger. It just kept getting more full and more full. And that was like the wisdom that I could get from here. Uh-huh. The spiritual blessings that I can get from here. Everything falling down, you know, was all those tools, all those things that I can use for the rest of my life were falling into that net, and that net just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It didn't seem like it was getting full, you know. And I was like, you can't get full. You like can't have enough wisdom, you know. You never like run out of room for wisdom. You never run out of room for spiritual blessings. You never run out of room for new things that you can learn, you know. And all those things were coming together, you know. And I was like, that's my answer. That's where I know this is where I need to go now, you know. And being able to trust that image, trust that like vision was, I need to come here and all those things are going to come together. And they have, every single little bit of it, like a job, financial like situations, all of that stuff has came together tenfold. Like it's been amazing. Like just being here has been great. And Jesus just shows up every corner of Nebraska. Like it's just good. Man, it's crazy that you asked that. So I have this thing about 5 years, 10 years thing. Uh-huh. I dislike hearing like, where are you going to be in 5 years? Where are you going to be in 10 years? Yeah. You know, only because I'm like this season of my life. Like I think someday there will be like a 5-year plan, 10-year plan. But this season of my life, I have such a strong feeling about 5-year, 10-year plans because when you think about all of those things, it sets expectations of what it's supposed to look like in your mind, and it leads to disappointment.
I like that.
So I've told myself, where am I going to be at tomorrow? You know, what am I going to do 5 hours from now? You know, because those are the important times. Those are the important things right now. I don't need to, like, right now I don't need to know where I need to be in 5 years or where I want to be in 5 years, because right now if Jesus told me, hey, you're moving to New York City because there is something that I want you to do there, I'm going to pack my bags, I'm going to move to New York City, and I'm going to do what Jesus wants me to do there. You know? So if I was like, but Jesus, that's not in my plans. Like, I wasn't, like, my 5-year plan is I'm going to get a house and I'm going to buy a new car and I'm going to do these things. Like, that's not my 5-year plan. New York City, how am I going to even afford that? How am I going to do this, you know? But being able to see that and say, like, Jesus, send me and I'll go. Tell me and I'll do. You know? Being able to say that is just, like, more of a like strong promise, you know, not like as in, like, Jesus doesn't fail. Jesus doesn't fail me. Jesus won't fail anyone. He hasn't failed yet, and he won't start now. You know, that song goes like, he won't, because he is good. He is trustworthy. He is faithful. He wants these things for us. You know, he knows the beginning. He knows the end. Mm-hmm. So why would I say, 5 years is going to look like this?
Right.
But Jesus says, no.
What?
5 years is going to look like this.
You're creating a space in your life.
Exactly.
Just like a church would create space in their service for God.
Yep.
You're creating space in your life by the way you live. So.
Yeah, so that's what I want for, like, myself, is that I have to live by what Jesus wants for me, not by what I want for me. Jesus knows what we need. It may not be what we want, but he knows what we need.
That is awesome.
If I need to move to New York, Jesus will tell me. If I need to move to Kansas City, Jesus will tell me, and I'm going to do it, because that's how I want to live my life. You know? It's worked out so far, like, since I've been saved, so I know it's not going to be easy, but ever since we were kids, how many times do you remember hearing in your life anybody saying, like, hey, Bruce, it's going to be easy. Life's easy. No, never. I've always heard since I was a kid, life is hard. Life is not fair. It's not going to be easy, you know? And that's what we have to, like, really live by, because it's not going to be easy.
That's amazing.
It's not going to be fair. There's this new song that I've been listening to. It's called We Crown You by Jeremy Riddle. And on that song, it talks about, like, Jesus, like, and it talks about the pain that Jesus went through, like, on the cross, and, like, what he did for us, and those things and all of that. And I just really, really enjoy that song so much, because it's like we crown you for the things that you've done, for the pain you've endured, for all these things that are just like nobody could have done it. 39 lashes, wound to the ribs, like all of that stuff, you know, like it's like, that's bizarre to me. Like, Jesus did that for us, you know. And to think, and this is like one of my favorite lines, to think that if I was the only one on this planet, Jesus would still give his life for me.
Yeah.
If you were the only one on this planet, Jesus would still give his life for you. You know, and I'm like, Jesus, really? Why would you do that? I'm not, you know, like, I tell myself I'm not good for that. I'm not, but Jesus said, you're deserving, you're worthy. You're my son, you're worth of, I want to do these things for you, you know? So just all those things. I mean, even the pain he endured for us on the cross, this, like, all those things get me emotional, because it's just hard. Like, how would somebody that mighty just come down and say, I'm going to do this for you.